Yo Broseph, Chuck here, back with another unlisted video. So this is going to be part 2 of my improvement wish list of the PowerCell 8. And this is probably the most important issue that I see with this device, and that's why I'm making a separate video for it. So back when I first got the PowerCell 8 and I started testing it, one of the very first thing I noticed under the full charge load of the 9 amps on the high charge profile, this hardwire cable got really hot. And what I mean by that, I've got a post on this on my Dashcam Talk forum post, and in my garage it was 70 degrees. And when this thing was charging, I measured it with my infrared pyrometer, and if my memory serves correct, this thing got up to 110 degrees, and that is no bueno. That means that when it's 100 degrees, this is probably going to be 140, 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And based on my experience, 30 years in the automotive industry, anybody with experience, education, and training involved in automotive electrical installation, you would never run such a thin wire gauge on such a high amperage circuit. And the second part of that is you would never run it through the fuse box either. When it comes to running aftermarket electronics or accessories through a fuse box, this is just my opinion, but as a general rule of thumb, you would never want to run more than one single amp through the fuse box, and this thing is running 9 amps. So this kind of blew me away that they're using such a thin wire gauge and running it through the fuse box. So I've prepared a small experiment to show you what I'm talking about. So this right here is an LED light bar, and these are these off-road light bars that you see on big off-road trucks that turn them on and they blind the heck out of you when they're on the road. And I just happen to have one. This is the exact same model that I have right over here, and I've got it plugged in and wired up to my variable power supply, and I've got it over there because as soon as I turn it on, it gets blinding. So what I want you to take notice of, this thing is rated at 540 watts, 50,000 lumen. You know, those are inflated numbers. Those really aren't true. But the one thing that is true is this comes with a 14 gauge wiring harness, and that's it right here. And I've got it right here. So and the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this wiring harness, anytime you're running a high amperage load, it's either has to go to its own power distribution block or directly to the battery, and that's how this wiring harness works. It's got 2 leads. Excuse me. The positive is right here, the negative is right here. It goes directly to the battery, and then it's got an inline fuse, and then it goes through a relay, which is right here, and then it comes out on a switch. You control it with a switch, and you just mount this on your dash. And the reason why that is because this is going to use so much current, power, and amperage and electricity, it's got to pull it directly from the battery, and then you just control it with a relay using a very small amount of electricity. And I'll go into more detail on this in just a minute. So oh yeah, I forgot to skip one thing. So after I measured the included 16 gauge hardwire cable at 110 degrees or whatever, that's why I decided to make my own 14 gauge charging cable. That's what this is, with the XT60 connector and these O-rings. So I reran that same test, and it only went up 10 degrees. It only went up to like 83 degrees from 70 degrees. Okay, so now back to our experiment. So I've got it hooked up, and I've got this thing dialed in at 12.6 volts, and I've got it at the maximum amperage load, which is 10 amps. And so I'm going to arm this thing, And so now, as soon as I touch this switch, the light's going to come on, and then we're going to see how much amperage we're going to pull out of the wall here, or in this circuit. Here we go. Okay, so the light's on, and now we can see we're at 8.3 amps. And the PowerCell 8 under full charge load, it pulls 9 amps. So this LED light bar actually pulls less power than the PowerCell 8. Right now we're at 8.3, and the PowerCell 8 is at 9 amps. Now the big takeaway from this is that this is such a huge load of power. It has its own dedicated wiring harness that goes directly to the battery at 14 gauge. So my recommendation for the PowerCell 8, you know, even though you guys have been doing this for however many years with the standard 16 gauge wire through the fuse box, and you haven't had any cars burned down, knock on wood, I would really like to see to go to a 12 gauge wire, and I would like to see the PowerCell 8 come with a similar wire harness. Now this wire harness, it retails for $15. So really we're talking about a minimal expense. I don't see this adding a whole bunch of manufacturing costs to the PowerCell 8. So again, it's going to come with the same 10-foot length, or actually it might need to be a little bit longer, since this is going to go directly to the battery. So it's got 2 wires. It'll go directly to the positive and negative terminals of the battery, and then it runs through this relay. And because this will not be running off a switch, you're going to have to run one of these 3 wires here to the fuse box, exactly like how you hardwire a dash cam. All you're looking for is a circuit that comes on when the engine is on and then shuts off when the engine is off, and that will tell the PowerCell, or that will tell the relay to either engage or disengage to charge or shut off the PowerCell 8. Okay, so that's just my 2 cents, but I think but this is such a big issue to me because based on my experience with aftermarket electronic equipment in the automotive industry, and that is why Robert, Retro Car Guy 530, made such a point of it in his review of the PowerCell 8 to not use the 16 gauge wire, hardwire cable, and wire up your own relay system directly to the battery. So yeah, if you want to know exactly how that'll work, all you got to do is watch Robert's video, and he goes over in detail how that works. Okay, that's it for now. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.